Hi, everyone. I'm DeFi Dad. You're watching episode 48 of Yield TV. Hey, welcome back. It's Monday, December 14th, 2020. Today on Yield TV, we are going to learn more about DeFiDollar. So DeFiDollar is, I think, one of the more premier stablecoin projects that I've been following. The team is that we're going to interview here, Arpit and Siddharth, are from India. I've always been fascinated by the Ethereum community's global reach, and I think it's really important that we continue to highlight teams across the globe and show the exciting community that's building on Ethereum. So on that note, Arpit and Siddharth, welcome to Yield TV. How are you guys doing?
Thank you, DeFi Dad. Yeah, very excited to be here, and thanks for having us. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, man. I remember, I think, Arpit, I think you reached out maybe in August, September, whenever you guys started building, and it's cool to see how far you've already come. And we're going to kind of show everyone how they can participate in DeFiDollar and how it is different and similar to other stablecoin projects. One of the goals today is we're going to really show off the application, as always on Yield TV. So before we do that, why don't we start with your guys' background? Can you tell us more about how you got into crypto, what you've worked on in the past, and then I'd love to learn more about why you decided to create DeFiDollar.
Sure.
Siddharth, you can go first.
Sure, thanks. So I think for me, it was by a very close friend, right? We were on a trek, and somehow he happened to mention to me there's something called Ethereum. He didn't go into the depths of it, but he gave me enough material that got me interested, and I just started jumping down the rabbit hole for the next 2 months once I got back to civilization, right? So that is how I got in. Yeah. Then again, such an amazing community, right? I think majorly my journey started at ETH India, where I met the folks at Matic and started working with them on a layer 2 scaling solution on Ethereum, and that's how I got into crypto. But there are a lot of things that have kept me here, right? Not just the tech part, but also the community, which has been really open, because we came from a very non-finance background, right? I'm from a business background, and getting up to speed on Ethereum on technical topics, or even just helping people get started, the community has been really awesome, and it's our time to give back to it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, Arpit, tell me more about your background.
Sure. So I used to be a hardcore backend engineer. I worked at Google and a YC startup, right? And my flatmate, he used to work at a company which is, I would say, the Stripe, but for India. And they were basically handling all the payment workload for the biggest crypto exchange in India, right? So he introduced me to it, and like most people, I got into it in December 2017, right? And bought some crypto at crazy prices.
I got in a few months earlier, so I got to buy Ether at around $300 or $400, around 500. I remember when the price was at 700, I was like, man, this is a steal. Oh boy.
Yeah, I know.
At 700, I am gonna be rich. And
yep.
And then
I remember buying even at $1,000 and even motivating one of my friends to buy it.
yeah. It's funny because we've come full circle now. Like, it's always whatever price point you're at, you're looking back at 200 now saying, wow, that was a steal. When we were at 200, everyone was saying, $100 Ether was a steal. But anyways, this is why this is my favorite part of every interview, is kind of learning about the origins and similarities we all have in coming into the space. But anyways, Arpit, you were saying, so you hopped into the community in December 2017, and what happened after that?
Actually, back then it was just trading. But then in a couple months, I realized that, blockchain and specifically Ethereum is about much more. Yeah. And back then there were very interesting projects like 0x, Aragon was starting out. There were a couple more, and, all of this seemed like very fantasy thing. So I did what anyone else would do. I quit my job and then took a sabbatical, started hacking, learning more about Ethereum development. So during this time, I traveled a lot, to ETH Global Hackathons. So that was in India, San Francisco, Singapore. And then I was a big fan of Aragon. I still am. And I went to their Aragon conference, which was in January 2019. Yeah. And during some of these events, I met the folks at Matic as well, right? And they were doing some very interesting stuff. So then about sometime last year, I joined Matic, where I was like a part of the team that was building the core blockchain infrastructure, which is a layer 2 scaling solution to Ethereum, right? And that is also where I met Siddharth. So we had like good chemistry.
Excellent. Yeah. And sorry, what year was that again when you guys first got together?
Last year, early last year.
Early 2019.
Year. Oh, wow. Okay. So you've been, and then, okay. Yeah. Tell me more about, so what was the idea behind DeFiDollar? And you'll have to remind me when you launched this, because I remember talking to you, I think it was at the IDEO product day. Yeah. So
exactly.
That was in the spring, actually. So this was quite a while ago. But then a lot's happened since then. So anyways, yeah. What is the problem that you all were looking to solve with DeFiDollar?
Yeah, actually, it started with something very simple, right? So even when we were at Matic, we used to participate in hackathons. And like ETH Global folks are amazing, like the kind of hackathons that they conduct, right? So in May, Hack Money was another such hackathon. And it was probably the first virtual hackathon which ETH Global folks were doing. So then we participated in that. And then, we were just brainstorming about what we want to build. We started with that. And during that time, there was a lot of discussion about DAI never being on its peg, right? Back then, people had not really accepted that fact that it will always trade at a premium, probably. And then that was also the month when USDC blacklisted their first address, right? So the concerns about centralization of stablecoins were tangible as ever, right? So people were really, basically just talking about it a lot. So then we realized that the stablecoin market cap keeps increasing, right? $5 billion, $8 billion. And even then there's so much fragmentation. There's no clear winner, right? There are so many concerns. So we don't really know what to use. And, think about a new user. Like, what do I tell my friends? Why are there 5 stablecoins? So then we thought there's probably some opportunity in like actually building an index, which is like the simplest way of actually diversifying your risk, right? So then we thought, if we can put them in an index and somehow make it a bit intelligent such that we can limit the downsides of each component and while still having the upsides, right? So if you thought that if we could iterate on the design that we had and if we can actually pull this through, then there's definitely some value add that we can do to the DeFi community. So that was a thought.
Yeah. And if you go back to that time, there weren't many projects working on this just yet as well. Like we've come a long way, but just the idea of holding a basket of stable coins, it wasn't possible yet. So, we can start screen sharing any time here to talk through DeFiDollar, but I think one of the major questions that I saw people asking on Twitter, commenting on just the fact that we were going to be interviewing you is, what are some of the major differences between DeFiDollar and I think of Curve, of course, who you've worked very closely with. We've got MStable. Actually, let's just focus on those two. I mean, those are two of the major names that come to mind.
Sure. Yeah. So, Siddharth, you want to take that?
I'll take the first bit. You can take it from there when the technical complexities arise. So I think first let's get this straight, right? So Curve is not a competitor in any way. It's like a building block, and I think there are very few protocols currently in DeFi which have sort of laid the foundation for people to come and build, right? Let's say Maker or Compound, Balancer for that matter as well. And Curve is another cog, right? So they've changed the way how stable coins are traded. Most of the stable coins, I think just the sheer volume that's there on Curve actually shows how great a product that is, right? Like a year back, if you had to exchange stable coins, you would have never thought to do it on a recent like exchange, right? And suddenly everyone is on Curve. So it was a natural transition for us. I think the first iteration of the product that you reviewed did not involve Curve. It had a Aave plus Balancer approach. After that, the thinking behind that was to reuse everything that's there on chain already, right, in the community, and try to solve for a higher problem. So stablecoin swaps were not a problem. We thought that Curve is doing it pretty well. What was the problem was the deficiency of intelligent index, right, which actually diversifies the risk and reduces the volatility. That's even when some of the underlying coins are not at peg. So that is why we decided to use Curve. Internally, we call Curve as a liquidity, as a peak, right? So we'll be adding multiple peaks as well. The first peak that we launched was the SUSD pool on Curve, right? Currently, we're on the Y pool. That being said, I think that is with respect to Curve. I think Arpit can take the bit with respect to MStable.
Yeah, exactly. So as Siddharth said, Curve was a building block for us. And the reason that we used Curve was, so our original design, which we call V0 now, was based on Aave and Balancer. And the idea was people could actually like swap coins. That was one thing. And because the coins are in Aave, that would generate some passive yield. But back then, Curve was not that huge, right? So when we actually got done with the Hack Money hackathon, Curve became really huge. And we realized that Curve pools already do both of these, right? So then we simply integrated with Curve. That was the idea. So in DeFiDollar, what we see it as having integrations with multiple Curve pools, right? And we think that Curve, and there is Curve, yes, and each pool has slightly different properties, right? So there's a pool with like BUSD. There's another pool which is a compound coins, right? C tokens of pools. So I think Curve has many pools. For us, what would make sense is to like actually integrate with several of these pools and not just Curve. So I hear that there are several new stablecoin AMMs coming up. We never know what's exciting going to come up, and maybe integrating with them makes a lot of sense, right? So Curve for us is a building block. They're not a competitor. For MStable, they are not competitor either, because So MStable guys are friends, and I talk to Alex Scott very frequently. So we see it as like growing the pie together instead of trying to get a share of the pie. So in terms of differences, if I speak about that strictly, there's a fundamental difference in philosophy. So MStable folks believe that all the coins that is a part of their index are pegged 1:1, which means that sooner or later each coin will return to its peg, right? That is their philosophy. What our hypothesis is that because there are so many stable coins, right, and because the barrier for issuing stablecoin is only getting lower, right? There's a stablecoin of each exchange, and so many algorithmic stablecoins coming up, like we're seeing with empty set dollar, dynamic set dollar, basis cash, right? So the barrier for issuing stablecoins is actually going lower. So then, for a person who is not a DeFi power user, a DeFi degen, and they come to use DeFi, what do they use, right? They can't be choosing from like 10, 15 stablecoins. So our idea is to actually have an index of stablecoins. And for us personally, we want to integrate a lot of stablecoins. And the idea is that eventually, if one stablecoin fails, then the mechanisms at play in DeFiDollar will be able to absorb that black swan event, right? So that is the idea. Yeah. So
and
like
to clarify, then, like if I'm holding DUSD, which actually would one of you mind if you start sharing your screen? I'll put it up here just because this kind of begins to dive into how you actually mint DUSD or how you could potentially trade for it. But like one of the things that has come up when I've talked with other stablecoin projects or just liquidity pools is, if one of the tokens were to go to zero, and then once you're on the right screen there, I'll add that to the screen there for you, Arpit. One of my fears has been that if one of the tokens that is in that basket goes to zero, there are models, and you'll have to remind me which ones they are, but there are models where if one goes to zero, they all go to zero, or they can all go to zero. And I recognize that as like that is the worst like outlier scenario we could possibly think of, one of them going to zero. As opposed to what I understand about DeFiDollar is you're trying to reduce the volatility and hold more effectively to the dollar peg. So I guess my question is if one of the tokens in the basket were to go to zero, does everything go to zero, or can the basket survive without that one token?
So in its current form, it goes to zero, but that's just because we have been live for just 2 months. Like we are building a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you how it works, right? So our integration right now is with just the Curve Y pool, which has like exposure to Tether, True USD, USDC, and DAI. And if Tether goes to zero, then the Curve pool would end up having just that, and then
Right.
DeFiDollar 2 would be end up having just that, right? But the idea is to integrate several such protocols, right? So DUSD, DeFiDollar, the stablecoin, it's a stablecoin that optimizes for PEG, right?
Oh, and Arpit, by the way, sorry, were you trying to share your screen? It shared, but then it stopped. It looked, I don't know if you meant to.
I'll just do that in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to like
yeah, cool.
see
Just
you.
want to make sure.
Yeah. So yeah, the idea is to like integrate with several such protocols, right?
Yeah.
And which is what Siddharth referred to as peaks. And then each peak will specialize in something, right? So DUSD is a stablecoin that wants to optimize for PEG safety, right? And yield. So Ypool, the integration with the Ypool right now optimizes for yield, right? Not the PEG safety in terms of the Black Swan event, because when I say about yield, right? So we have an integration with the Curve Ypool and also with the Yearn Finance Y Vault, right? So when a user gives, actually that's a good opportunity to walk you through the flow,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah. So basically, this is our app, and this is the mint page.
Yep.
And you can actually mint DeFiDollar with any of these stablecoins, right? So you can choose many, and yeah, whatever desired thing is. And what happens is, so I'll actually just use one so that I don't have to do many approvals. And this one is actually already approved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
what essentially
just to call out some of this for everyone, you can mint BUSD with any one of the stable coins that make it up. You don't have to come with all 4 or 5 of them. Is it 5 of them or 4 of them in total? I can't remember now.
It's actually 4 plus 2 more derivatives, right? Like YUSD and YCRV.
That's right. Yeah. There we go. So
Yep.
yeah, which is great. You've removed friction. This has, I think, become like a standard for minting or providing liquidity by just allowing someone to add any one of the individual tokens.
Yep. Exactly. You could choose vanilla stablecoins or even like Ycurve, which is the Ypool Curve Ypool token, or the Yearn Finance token, right? So all of these are accepted as collateral in our index. And again, as you said, the idea is to like remove friction, to remove that cognitive load. Just come in with any stablecoin that is popular, mint DeFiDollar, right? So that is the idea. And what essentially happens, right, when I actually made this transaction is basically the USDC, it's deposited in Curve, and then we get the Curve LP tokens in our contracts. And then based on that Curve LP token, there's a way to price that Curve LP token. And using that price formula, we give you the number of DUSD that you should be getting, right? So this is what happens when you do that.
So this is step 1 of the process. I mean, this is the basic,
Yep.
This goes back to the basic utility of this. If you don't like the volatility of DAI, which, I think people sometimes forget, like DAI moves quite a bit. This is one way to reduce exposure to that volatility.
Exactly, yeah. Because the way we have been trying to build DeFiDollar is so that it holds its peg better. That is the entire premise that we are building this on.
Excellent.
So yes, like I mentioned sub DeFiDollar, and behind the scenes, what is actually happening is we get the Curve tokens, yes, and these are also put in the Y Vault, right? So that just to get a higher yield. And what do we do with that yield? That is quite an interesting part. So that goes to the users of the savings product, right? And savings product is a place where you get yield on your stablecoins, right? It's risk-free in the sense that yes, there's smart contract risk, but there's no impermanent loss risk. You don't have to deal with things like
like a counterparty.
Farming,
It's very
like
simple.
farming and
What
stuff.
we've enabled. Yeah. It's and I'm. Am I right to say is that 39%?
Yeah, 31.9.
31.9.
Yeah, and this has been steady for like the last 2 weeks.
And that's based. Oh yeah, there we go. So that's based on. I love that. So you can see what is the calculated APY based on the last 24 hours versus the last week. And yeah, that's really, really helpful to know. So you can see whether it's dropped, which again, in this case, it's very high. It dropped a bit. So yeah.
The idea is to give the users a clear picture, right? It's not, so you have like 3,000 APYs, which are flashed just for like some hours, right?
That's right.
You have to see like a bigger picture. I think a week is a standard. I think should be the standard, right? And the whole ecosystem to figure out, okay, what is the rate that has persisted, right? So it's a little bit of education for the users before they decide to actually come into.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword. When I look at APYs, I like being able to see what it is over the last 24 hours in case it's significantly dropping, like something has changed, versus looking in the past week here and even further to know that like, okay, well, in this case, it just means that we were earning a higher rate over the last week. I think a lot of the people that watch Yield TV know this stuff, but I'm always thinking of like, if you're new to DeFi, these are things that the three of us take for granted. And I think the average user needs to understand that, if it drops to 2% overnight, something's wrong, or something has changed and you should question whether you'll be able to earn that 39%, at least based on what's changed.
Exactly. That's our thought as well, right? So both of us are DeFi enthusiasts, and maybe as much as we think about building our own product, we also think about DeFi education. So our Discord is where you would have a lot of unbiased conversations about balancer pools in general, impermanent loss, just DeFi in general. So yeah, like it's pretty cool. So yeah, like in that spirit, we have the ideas.
You got minting down, so we know how to make or get DUSD and reduce volatility in the stable coins we hold. Now we're locking up those stable coins. What is the underlying mechanism here that's earning us interest? Can you just remind me, like, what is this? Am I earning more DUSD or am I earning another token?
Yeah, so you're earning DUSD, and how it works is, so in the mint part, we supply USDC, right? And that has went to the curve. And there's some portfolio management happening here. Some of these curve tokens are actually also put in Yearn Vault, and there's a separate contract that holds that. Excellent. So you would actually see like about almost 10 million worth of YUSD tokens that are held by contracts. So basically that is what the DUSD is backed by, right? And because Yearn token is an interest-bearing token, it is getting stronger by the second, and so is the curve pool token, right?
Gotcha.
We process that yield in our smart contracts and give you that in terms of DeFiDollar. So let's say at a particular time, one USD is worth $1, but after a while it's worth $1.2, right? Mm-hmm. That balance would reflect on this page. So you would see it change to 1.2 just because the way that we have written our contract is we price the Curve LP token and the YUSD token with their dollar value, right? Not just the number of units. And based on that dollar value, basically you can harvest your DUSD here. This is how it works.
Got it. And so what I'm earning here, though, like the 39% over the past week, that doesn't just reflect the Y curve, right? I mean, there is something else. Where does the other yield come from? Like, how does the number get as high as 32 or 39%?
Right. So there's some interesting mechanism at play here. What happens is BUSD is a stable coin, right? And some people are using it, which I'll admit is like mostly for yield farming. So I think there's about 10 million worth of liquidity in the Curve pool, some more in all of these three pools, right? Actually, these two. Awesome. These are like for farming our governance token, which is the DFD, DeFiDollar DAO, right? Now, the thing that is happening here is because these people, these LPs are actually already gaining yield, right? That's why they're in these pools. what we do is the DUSD that is logged in these pools, right? Essentially, the entire TVL that is generating some interest from the Y Vault. All of that goes to the DUSD holders in the savings product.
I gotcha.
So what that means is the savings product has 4 million right now, and the USD TVL is about 10.5 million right now. And the yield from 10.5 million is going to those 4 million DUSDs.
Gotcha.
That's why this is higher. It's just
Gotcha.
like investors with different risk profiles.
There's additional LP earnings. Like when I deposit into this, my DUSD, I am earning based on the curve Y pool, but are you saying is it all or some of the DUSD is being used in these liquidity pools and I'm earning additional rewards?
Yep, you're earning additional rewards simply because this contract, the savings product contract, has 4 million and 4 million DUSD, and our entire TVL is 10.5 million DUSD. And because that difference of 6.5 million DUSD is being employed elsewhere, right, in these pools.
I gotcha.
All of that yield is coming to these 4 million DUSD. So that's why these yields are higher. So it's basically yield from YUSD, but like 2.5x.
Yeah. I didn't realize that. I mean, there's a lot going on under the hood there because those are much higher numbers on a stable coin. One last question on that. If you go back to the LP rewards, so I could hop into the DFD, which is the governance token of DeFiDollar. I could hop into, there's a balancer pool and 2 Uniswap pools, both with DFD. Is what you're saying there, are either of those contributing back to that savings rewards that I'm earning, or is it just the curve DUSD? Okay, it's all of them then.
All of the DUSD in existence,
Okay, got it. And those are balancer and Uniswap trading fees. There's no sort of Uniswap governance token involved in this, at least at this point.
Yep. But the interesting thing is we are actually talking to SushiSwap.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. Tell us more about that. So there's what's on the table there at SushiSwap?
Right. So like we were, some of the people in our community requested that, maybe you should talk to Sushi guys because getting incentivized with uni is much harder and Sushi is more welcome to new projects. I would say that. So then we actually got in touch with Sushi people, and it turns out that 0x Monkey is a great guy. I had a very refreshing call with him, and so SushiSwap has. Sorry.
Oh, I said yes. He's wonderful. He's a great community member to Ethereum now. It's been really impressive watching them build. So yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
We've all sort of discovered this. It's really a quality project that they've built.
Yeah, exactly, right. So then I was browsing through their forums, like just talking to people, and then I came to know about this on-chain program that they have, which is basically a new liquidity mining incentive program for projects, right? And anyone can propose pools there, and then the community, SushiSwap community members will vote on it. So we actually did that, and then their proposal is actually being voted upon right now. So we are planning to have 2 of these pools on SushiSwap, in fact. Yep.
Excellent. Yeah. It just
so basically higher yield.
Yeah, more yield and more eyeballs on DeFiDollar. I guess anything else here then to call out with the different liquidity provider opportunities, because we know how to get DUSD with stable coins or yield earning tokens like YCurve and YUSD. We know how to save it to earn 32 to 39% as of the last week.
Yep.
We know how to earn liquidity provider rewards based on these, which I would remind everyone, I think all of these you can zap into at zapper.fi /invest. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you don't even need to do all of the steps that are needed to do here, right? Like first you need to add liquidity to the Uniswap pool, then you have to get your tokens here and then stake them. Zapper is a great interface for doing it in like 1 to 2 transactions.
And the Zapper team has been really helpful as well, right? And getting everything up to speed. We've been talking to Suhail some of the times when we get stuck, and he's been really helpful in helping us out. And I think soon, I think DeFi Dad, we should do a video of you actually degening into one of these pools live, right? So more
I
people
don't think you can refer to those pools as degening. These are, when there's stable coins involved, it's really, refreshing. I do want to call out, if anyone isn't following this, DFD, that is the governance token. That doesn't hold to a dollar peg. That's whatever, that is a token that is meant to be a way to have a voice in the governance of DeFiDollar. But at the end of the day, these tokens obviously, they are bought and sold on DEXs and AMMs. So whatever the market decides. So just be aware that if you do become an LP in the three on the left, those three liquidity pools, you can experience impermanent loss because those token prices could diverge a lot. It's a risk with any liquidity pool, but the pools that we've called out, though, with like Curve DUSD and the savings rate where you're simply holding DUSD, the impermanent loss there is so minuscule because these are stable coins and they normally are holding to around $1. The only major thing to think about there then becomes what smart contract risk and of course, like this whole black swan event that we're saying is sort of like the basis of value of DeFiDollar.
I think that's a great point that you brought forth, right? Because security and just user security and fund security is at the foremost of whatever we do, right?
Yeah.
So even in terms of our release, right? We've been live since August, and we did a sort of a tiered launch, right, where we had user caps for deposits, and we've slowly incremented that. We've had an ongoing audit. We've had multiple firms conduct audits. We even hired an independent auditor to take a look at the code. So we've been really, let's say, respectful to the ecosystem, and we've tried to actually ensure whatever we're shipping out, and which is actually substantial, right? There are multiple products, multiple features of the protocol that have been live just in a short while as well. And all of that, we're proud to say, has been audited. We're like a public team, so you can reach out to us anytime. And we're not against anonymous teams, but it's just that it's helpful sometimes when you're building a product for the long term to be known and just to have some people to relate to. Although Bitcoin is a great example of why that's not needed. But yeah, I think it's a slightly different approach, and it should be a little bit reassuring because what we're trying to do is to get the average user into DeFi as well, right? Like the savings product can be explained to anyone as a simple savings account. You don't have to worry about impermanent loss. No one really understands in Web 2.0 what that is, and you can just get a specified interest, and that's why we've tried to keep the interface also minimal so that anyone can understand that.
Yeah, these stablecoin savings products are, I think these are examples of DeFi, bringing in newcomers. Like this is what we need. Like we can't be explaining, first you become a liquidity provider. Oh, but you're gonna have to worry about impermanent loss, and then you're gonna stake it, and then you're gonna do this. Like we try to abstract away some of that complexity with Zapper, but I think at the end of the day, likening what's here to savings products, minus like obviously there's banking insurance, but there's banking insurance with traditional finance, like especially in the United States, we call it FDIC. But I would argue, you're earning 0.01% on, like, those are real numbers. In the United States, I think Bank of America is constantly being quoted as like offering 0.01%. I have an online savings account that was earning like 1% at one point, and my friends were, shocked by that ability to earn 1%. So, with mine having been a more competitive offering as an online bank, the fact that you can earn 30x that, like, yeah, there's greater reward, there's greater risk, but I think eventually if we can help people to, understand how to put their dollars into digital dollars and put them into something like this with a savings product, they can really make it worth their while. Guys, there was something else in there that I wanted to make sure I didn't miss. Is there like an exit fee? If I mint DUSD, where does the exit fee become applicable? Is it me earning LP rewards and pulling out, or is it me redeeming my DUSD for stable coins?
Yeah, actually, like if you come to our app, so I had closed this dialog. So the warnings are right here, right? And there's a detailed fee structure that is a part of our docs, which walks you through about what are the fee that are charged at various user journeys, right? Minting DUSD, the protocol doesn't charge any fees. Curve does in some scenarios, right? Redeeming DUSD to vanilla stablecoins does have fee, but it's a little bit complicated because it depends on whether there needs to be a withdrawal from the Y vault, and that has a 0.5% fee, right? So it's complicated, and that's why it has been written in a verbose manner here. But one thing that I would definitely like to bring out is the withdrawal fee from the savings product.
Yes.
And that warning is here too. So because our protocol is based on Y vault, right, and because they do periodic harvests, there's a tag vector that opens up for someone who can actually like enter the pool and then immediately exit the pool after an harvest. So just to like circumvent that, there is a 0.5% exit fee, right? Which is purely a security thing. Otherwise, they'd be front running and bots would be getting a large amount of value. But that said, this fee is charged on withdrawals, but it actually goes to the savings product LPs, the other LPs. So it's like, even if you want to exit. Yeah.
So it's a security mechanism, but it does get rewarded to those who end up holding, who have, if I'm still in the savings pool and Arpit pulls out of it, that 0.5% fee goes to me and everyone else proportionally.
Exactly. It's like, so last week there was a whale who withdrew $1 million from the savings product.
My gosh.
And then, which essentially means $5,000 in fees, right? And the one day APY shot up. So people were happy, at least for that day.
Yeah. That's so interesting. That's cool. You've got an exit fee there that's actually serving two different purposes. What about guys? What sorts of risks are you working to mitigate in terms of like flash loan attacks? I feel like it kind of just referred to like one of the mechanisms that helps to protect the pool, but I think like the most common question that was being asked ahead of time was, does the team have any plans to try and reduce the systemic risk of DUSD? Is it possible with the nature of yield-bearing instruments? How do you reduce the risk of flash loan attacks on DUSD? So anyways, anything more you can share beyond what we've covered today in terms of how do you protect the funds in those pools from exploits?
Of course. So like the thing is, when we launched, right, we took our time with it. So of course we got 2 audits. That is still okay. But the thing is, we engaged a lot with the Curve team before, like during the time when we were actually building this product, right? And I actually kept pinging Michael from Curve for every little thing. And then he was very kind to review our design in detail, right? And then he actually also, like whenever I had a question, he used to ask that. So the good thing is, Curve team is awesome. And there's a function called get virtual price in the Curve contracts, if I'm allowed to be a little bit technical here. So what that virtual price function in the Curve contracts does is it gives you the dollar value of a Curve pool token, okay, in a manner that is not possible to be manipulated by any kind of flash loan, right? That's how Curve team has built it. So it's a flash loan or putting a lot of one kind of coin in the Curve pool doesn't change that virtual price. That's how they have built it, right? And we use that. I think some of the projects, and especially Harvest, made that mistake. What they did was they used to see the composition of a particular Curve token, right? When I say composition, it means the number of each type of coin that is backed, that the Curve token is backed by, right? And then multiply that with the Oracle price. But that is actually not the correct way. because it's simply manipulatable by a flash loan. So we are sorted there, yes. And there are audits. Curve team has reviewed our design. They even tweeted about it. So that is there. And that said, of course, I mean, it's impossible to say, nothing can happen to us. But we do our best. Like, we have multiple rounds of testing in terms of rigorous unit tests. Our code quality is good. We do testnet testing. And then some components we also test on the mainnet. Yes. So that is there. And also any of the hacks that are there, right? Our team reviews that, and we promptly make sure that we don't have any of those vulnerabilities. And I think a large part of these hacks is right. So before I was in DeFi, I used to be a core software engineer, right? And I've written APIs that serve millions of queries per second, right? So personally speaking, I have that experience of writing code, maintainable code, and highly tested code, right? So I think it's sort of like a humble brag, but then whenever I write code, I have this impulse to like actually test it thoroughly in terms of the unit test coverage, end-to-end testing, and all of that. It's simply I cannot function without that. So I think a lot of these hacks, the unanimous, learning that we are having from all of these hacks is, audits are not a replacement for good development, right? Good development practices. So write your code, think about each solidity line that you write properly, test it properly, and then peer reviews, audits, bug bounties. I think all of this makes an wholesome experience. But yeah, so we try our best.
And also that being said, right?
What doesn't kill us, what makes us stronger? That's definitely true in DeFi. Siddharth, sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was saying something with respect to composability, right? And there are so many moving parts. I think when Arpit showed you the transaction as well, right? You can see how many protocols or how many transactions are being hit, right? So people need to understand that composability is a double-edged sword, right? You need to understand what you're interacting with and give it enough time, right? All of these things, which could have been avoided with other protocols had they seen or probably reached out to us or the Curve team, right? Because there's a problem that has already been solved. So we encourage that too. We're talking to a lot of teams. We're talking to a lot of people making AMMs just to make sure that these integrations are safer and more nuanced than what was currently possible, right? So trying to build for the future while also trying to help people in the ecosystem at the same point. We are very thankful to a lot of people in our journey, right? Especially Michael from Curve, because it's not a function of, so help will be given to those who seek it, right? It's a like famous Harry Potter quote. So that's something that applies to Ethereum in every sense of the word. So we really encourage others to reach out to us for the same help that we got from the Curve team, and we'd be happy to have a conversation around that.
Well, you have some other fans here too. Peter Pan was here saying to say hello, and another friend there saying hello. So Michael's brilliant from Curve. He's had as big of an impact as anyone over the last year, and he kind of fits that profile again of. There's just some real geniuses in our space who, he used to be, I think, a physics PhD, and thank God he discovered Ethereum and crypto and DeFi, because what he's been able to accomplish in terms of building the liquidity up of Curve, it's pretty outrageous. I think they're around like 1.5 billion on like a bad day right now. So. And everyone wants a Curve pool at this point, so it's been it's been exciting to watch that. And I think going back to what you guys were saying though is, I think if you want help, if you need support, that's one of the strengths of the Ethereum community and the DeFi community on Ethereum. There's just so many people here that want to help one another, and that is. I love, actually, there was something you said earlier I didn't get a chance to comment on that I really admire is you mentioned we don't really, Curve is definitely not a competitor because we're literally building with Curve and mStable. We are, very close with them. You're clearly communicating, and we see ourselves as growing the pie together. That is the philosophy that that to me is it's what helps us to all like win. There's no reason right now that anyone should be looking at each other as purely competition. Like there is such a bigger pie to grow out there. I recognize competitiveness is it's a strength for many teams, but I have always been a fan of that. Like keeping in mind that like there's no way that the few other teams building in a space that has 15 billion in total value locked that we should be working against each other. We should find ways to work together and continue to grow. Let's grow DeFi to 1 trillion. 15 billion will seem like nothing when we hit 1 trillion. Guys, anything else that you think folks should know about DeFiDollar? I think we've covered just about everything, but yeah, anything else that you'd like the world to better understand about your project?
Yeah, one more thing. So DeFiDollar is an index, yes, but we are coming up with something very exciting, which we think will hold the peg much better. And we are calling it the DeFiDollar stability module. And yeah, it's treat this as sort of like a teaser. We should be able to like have a public a specification for public to review out in the open sometime this week, hopefully.
Oh, excellent.
Right? And yeah, like I think you guys might like it. It's sort of like the empty set dollar kind of a seigniorage model. No, actually, like reducing the circulating supply to actually keep the peg better, right? It's based on that. It's similar to that, and I think people might like it. So very excited for that.
That being said, we also have another product which is probably going to be launched this week. It's a DFT buyback vault, which is actually undergoing audits at the moment. So a lot of things to watch out for. I think just follow us on Twitter or probably just come and join us on our Discord. We keep on having all these conversations with our community as to what they want to see and how can we actually enable that. So just hop onto the chat and would love to have you there.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to remind everyone you can follow DeFiDollar on Twitter. It's a great place just to catch up on all of their announcements and major product releases. Also, if you go there, they also you can follow them on Medium, which you guys put out a lot of detailed posts there. Can you remind me, is the join community, is that a Discord community for DeFiDollar?
The major community is on Discord, yes. We also have a Telegram channel, which is currently closed, but we'll be opening it up. Like I think we'll open it up tomorrow.
Excellent. Yeah, here is if you go to DUSD.finance, it's right here. Click on Join Community. I'm sure you'll have unprecedented access per usual with this team. Another perk of the DeFi community. And let's see here. Anything else? Oh, if you go to DUSD.finance or just go to app.dusd.finance, that was where we were showing off all of the cool utility in the application today. And yeah, again, you can get in touch there with Arpit and Siddharth. And guys, congrats on all the success so far. And I definitely was excited when you reached out. Part of the reason is just because of our common connection also with the Ethereum push notification service. So, at the end of the day, I think I was telling you before this, like I'm excited for all the projects that have yet to come out of India. It's like we have a country filled with the most talented engineers in the world, and I'm just excited to see what more gets built. But really appreciate you guys are kind of setting the standard and getting people more excited about DeFi there. So if folks have projects that they're building on Ethereum, please reach out. You can reach out through my Twitter account, and we'd love to showcase more of the builders there in India. So we are actually going to take just a quick break. I'm going to let you guys go, but I'm going to hop on with Kevin Owocki in a second. We're going to talk about Gitcoin grants some more, and just kind of learn from Kevin about all of the cool stuff they've been building there and how you can participate in Gitcoin grants. So anyways, we'll be back in just a few minutes, but guys, I'll let you hop off here and or I can remove you, whatever's easier.
Thank you, DeFi. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Arpit. Thanks, Siddharth. Great to see you. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.
Take care.
See you. Bye-bye.
All right, and I'm going to share my I'm going to share my waiting screen here. Where did it go? Here we go. All right. Oh, that's dumb. That's not going to work. All right. I'm just going to remove myself. I'll be back, everybody, in a sec with Kevin. All right, Kevin. Hey, I'm bringing you on live this time. Normally we hang out a bit, but I got to interview the DeFiDollar team here. So, what's up, dude? Welcome to Yield TV. Well, glad to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And YOLO, I guess we're live already. Hi, everyone.
We are. Yeah, I'm gonna guess retweet the link, but yeah, it's just an exciting day. Got to learn all about DeFiDollar and kind of walk through all the cool stuff they're building. So normally we would kick off here, but since we're already live, really, I just want to hop right into the interview with you. Kevin, just double checking, how much time do you have? Like, I was thinking like 30 minutes. I don't want to keep you too long just because you're a busy man. You're busy, the Lord of Gitcoin, the maker of grants, gatekeeper of grants. So
although I don't know if we want to use that title because this ecosystem doesn't like gatekeepers, right? So I prefer the title "Wannabe Philosopher King" at Gitcoin.
Wannabe Philosopher King.
Yeah.
That's
but yeah, I have a half hour to actually answer your question. So that's
perfect. Yeah. Well, and so what I've been doing the last several days is also screen sharing live and showing people how to donate. So
we made your Twitter handle says DeFi Dad Live, like my grant is live on Gitcoin. So
that's right.
You have to tell me if your donations increased after that went live. I might start recommending to people that they do it.
You know what? It did actually. It definitely is something I would tell others to do. I like when I'm doing the live donations, it's me obviously donating to other projects, but I think it helped to put it into my Twitter account just for my own grant. So here, let me just quickly share this, and then I really wanted to dig into anything else that you think people should know and understand about Gitcoin grants, having just seen us donate live. So okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just put my cute little banner up, how to donate to Gitcoin grants. So, okay, reminder everyone, this is Gitcoin grants. And normally this is where I quickly explain what it is. But Kevin, would you like to just give us a brief description of what is Gitcoin grants? What's the purpose of it?
Sure. Well, you're setting me up for failure if you ask for it to be brief. You know, I'm a software engineer. Yeah, so no, Gitcoin's mission is to grow and sustain open source software, and we want to provide business models that are powered by blockchain for open source. Gitcoin grants is one of our products, which basically is like kind of like Patreon, but we all these projects accept crypto instead of US dollars. And for 2 weeks every quarter, we run a matching round where basically we run a matching round where we raised, I think, on the order of 500K this month or this quarter from whales in the community, and they are matching your crowdfund contributions to different Gitcoin grants. And the cool thing about Gitcoin grants is that we use this funky matching formula called quadratic funding that sometimes a $1 donation can yield up to $100 or $200 worth of matching funds. And that's just a really super powerful way to fund open source software, to provide that amount of matching to each crowdfunded contribution. Gitcoin Grants has raised $4.2 million for community projects and open source projects in the Ethereum ecosystem, and we're just getting started.
Wow. Yeah. The numbers are staggering. Because can you remind us, Kevin, how much money did you all raise last round compared to this, or even like take us back a year? What were the numbers that you used to talk about?
Yeah, so we started off doing a 25K round in January 2019, and now we're up to doing 500K rounds in 2020. And the most amazing thing is that the Ethereum Foundation started off funding the matching pools, but now we're starting to see Gitcoin alumni, people who have basically graduated from taking contributions and now have their own business model, giving back to the community. And so if you go to gitcoin.co/grants, you can see the header that has all of those members of the Public Goods Justice League. You have to be on the main Gitcoin Grants landing page, not the infrastructure category.
Yeah, let me take us back to that here. Here we go.
Yeah, definitely. We're reworking the nav right now, so I'm glad to see that you at least know how to use the nav right there. Yeah, so these are all the people that have funded the matching pool. Super generous donations from the Ethereum Foundation, Synthetics, Kraken, Binance, and Balancer Labs, Iron Finance, Optimism. I mean, just like all of the great projects that have been successful in the Ethereum community, paying it forward to the next generation of projects in the Ethereum community.
Yeah, the story that you were telling of just teams being funded and then sort of paying it back to the community is really cool. I think the one that really stuck out for me this quarter was Binance and Kraken getting involved. Like, I guess anything else you can share there about like how that came about, and like I know sometimes we as a community, we there are some who will frame it like it's like crypto exchanges and us in DeFi against one another, but I definitely don't see it that way, and I think like this is impressive that they made that donation to the community.
Yeah. So let's say rounds 1 through 6, it was just the Ethereum Foundation funding us. Round 7, we started to see a lot of DeFi projects. If you remember back in ye old days of summer 2020, it was DeFi summer, and a lot of these projects were doing really well, and they decided to donate to Gitcoin Grants, and we raised I think like 700 or 800K from DeFi projects in round 7. Fast forward to round 8, some of these centralized exchanges that also wanted to fund infrastructure are now joining the party. And so, I think that, I can't speak for them, but I think that they really want to be funding the infrastructure that their products are built upon. And the world is increasingly an Ethereum centric, or, it's clear that Ethereum and DeFi is not going anywhere. And so they want to be funding that infrastructure in addition to Bitcoin infrastructure.
It's really cool. By the way, as we're talking, what I'm going to do here is let's just do a quick checkout. Then I can ask you more questions here about Gitcoin, but it's my goal to hit 200 grants by Thursday, and I got to check and see where I'm at here. But let me, everyone has probably seen this by now, but you go to gitcoin.co, you click on grants, you start adding the projects that you want to support. There's how many projects in total, Kevin? Is it 1,000 now?
We have about 1,300 now. Yeah. Wow. And most of them are in the community or the DApp infrastructure category, but we increasingly have, community or DApp category, but now we're starting to see a lot of infrastructure projects too, ETH2 clients, ETH1 clients, stuff like that.
So cool. And, you can donate as little as you want, but like, I think what's exciting here is, you look at like one DAI based on quadratic funding today, which, I always try to remind people, Kevin, the matching amounts can change through the 17th based on a number of variables, but this is cool. It gives me a sense of where we're at. I don't think this is going to drop to 0, but we're at 30.85 DAI is being matched to my one DAI here. 72 DAI is being matched to my one DAI here. And anyways, am I framing that correctly? Is that essentially how it works?
For sure. Yeah. So basically quadratic funding will optimize for the number of contributors to a grant, not the amount funded. So the cool thing is that a one DAI contribution from a new identity can be worth hundreds of dollars in funding. Looks like this first grant is worth 30, 75. for a 1 DAI contribution. And so, we're doing the math for you there, but the TLDR is that a 1 DAI contribution can really make a huge difference to a lot of these grants and how much they get from the matching pool.
Awesome. Well, okay, so the magical part of what you guys enabled, because I think this is like my 5th or 6th round with Gitcoin grants, like me donating, and I'm like amazed at how easy this has become. So I was able to add to my cart, see it show up there on the right-hand side. If you want to donate like the same amount to each project, which I've been doing myself. So in this case, if I do 1 DAI, I can hit apply to all. Yep. And then at the very end, I always choose, this is up to everyone else, but I choose to put 10% towards the Gitcoin Grants Development Fund. Kevin, what is that? Can you remind everyone how does that work, and why is that? Why do I think that's so important?
For sure. Yeah. So Gitcoin employs a team of software engineers who build Gitcoin grants, among other things that allow people to get coins. And we got to pay our software engineers, and that just goes to the development fund. 100% of those funds will be spent on future iterations of Gitcoin grants. So super appreciate you contributing 10% of your checkout to that development fund.
Excellent. Okay. And then lastly, we have, I don't even know what standard checkout is anymore because I haven't used it. I've been using the ZK Sync, which basically costs me like 10 cents in DAI. But what is standard checkout? Like how much more money would I pay here for gas?
Yeah, for sure. So we used to have a little gas estimator on there. I don't see it on your screen though, so maybe we took that out. But basically, you can do a standard checkout, which is basically just like checkout on the Ethereum mainnet, and that will, I think, probably cost you on the order of $30 worth of DAI for the cart size that you have. And then we also in round 7 introduced ZK Sync integration, which is a layer 2 payment provider. And the cool thing about that is that you can basically do a checkout for on the order of like 10 cents or something like that for that many grants. And that's just the cool thing about ZK Sync is that, oh shoot, are you getting a checkout error?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's because I was flipping networks earlier. This is the reason I've only run into this once ever, and this is what happened. Let me hold on a sec. Let me just reconnect my wallet.
For sure. Yep, in the top left there should be that.
I want to call it. My internet has sucked lately, so like I felt badly for. I had Super Rare on Thursday or Friday, and I was like, their website has been awesome. This is a reflection of my cruddy internet. Let me just double check here. And I'm just going to reconnect. Yeah. Oh, it is. Yep, that was it. My wallet wasn't connected because this is a tab I never closed. So if you never closed your tab, you could have some issues with a Mask wallet. Okay, here we go. Let's reshare. Here we go. I should see, by the way, Kevin, for what it's worth, I discovered that when that gas estimate isn't showing, that has tended to be the reason for me at least. So let me try this one more time. And
your wallet connected up in the top right over there. Yeah, so the cool thing about the layer 2 tech is that, Vitalik published that blog post about how we're moving towards a roll-up centric vision of Ethereum. And ZK Sync is actually a roll-up provider. So using ZK rollups, Ethereum 1 scales to tens of thousands of transactions per second and is super, super cheap. So I think we're one of the first apps to integrate with a layer 2 provider, and it saved people a lot of gas money.
It's like magic. I had never. I was caught off guard when I realized that I could do this because I was like, "What?" Like I had not. And of course, as I explain this, I think, hold on a sec. I think it's because I have about 100 tabs open on my computer.
No worries. I wonder if the standard checkout works. It might cost you a little bit more in gas, but
just so I can wrap it up here for you. Here we go. Let's do standard checkout. There we go. All right, cool. And I'm just going to check the gas price here. Anyways, folks get the idea. I'll relink this all. I have found that as long as you don't keep 100 tabs open on your computer like I do, and you have 100 different DeFi apps connected to different wallets, you'll probably be fine here. Let's see, 51.6, there we go. All right.
Yeah, this is one of the optimizations that we made in, I think it was round 6, adding the ability to check out in a cart all at once has been super useful. That it took the average number of grants that people contribute to from something like 2 up to 8, because it's just so easy to add them all to your cart and then to check out all at once. And I think that we want people to really allow people to like window shop for grants that they want to fund, and then drop a die in here and a die in there. So the cart checkout view has been a big hit.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, gosh, we used to do like, let's say, I remember I had like 50 donations, and that was 100 transactions. And, you'd go through it, and it was hard to get others to agree to it, because, some folks just aren't going to sit there and keep clicking through and estimating gas. But now we've kind of abstracted away all of that complexity. Kevin, so what's next with Gitcoin grants? Like, what are some of the goals for next round? And are there any other UX optimizations that you guys have been super focused on?
Sure. Well, speaking of UX optimizations, I just have to show on my screen over here.
Oh, yeah, go right ahead.
That I am checking out on my ZK Sync checkout over here. And
here we go.
Used to be working on my screen, but yeah, this is basically just the ZK Sync checkout experience. And what's super nice about it is that I don't even have to broadcast a transaction from my main Ethereum wallet. I can just sign a message, and it's gonna fund these 2 grants for me. So I just paid like less than a couple cents worth of gas for that. So getting your issue fixed will be I think the first thing that we work on. But
I can assure everyone, when something is wrong on my computer with apps, it is 100% my fault. I have rarely discovered that there's something wrong outside of my computer. That was what grad school taught me, or what chemistry taught me, is if it goes wrong, it's 100% your own fault.
Yeah. Well, it's actually something that I don't mind diving into a little bit, because we're, I think, one of the first use cases. Like, this Gitcoin grants round has had 1,500 contributors doing over 10,000 transactions, and the number of operating systems and browsers and then Web3 wallets, just the permutations of all of that, has been a really amazing way to battle harden not only Gitcoin grants, but the payment providers we rely on, like ZK Sync. And if you're going to go mainstream, getting that butterly smooth user experiences, I think you got to work out a lot of those kinks with a lot of those permutations. And so that's kind of like where we spend, I'd say maybe like 20% of our time is just on making sure that the payment checkout experience is smooth across all of the different all of those different technology stacks. And I think that we're kind of like still standardizing what a lot of those APIs look like. And it's really important to do that before we go mainstream. Now, so that's kind of like what we do every single round, and what we'll continue to do into round 9. But what you can expect to see from Gitcoin grants in 2021 is even bigger matching rounds. So we started it off with 25K matching rounds in January 2021 or January 2019. Now we're up to 500K matching rounds. My target, my sort of like stick my finger in the air, see which way the wind is blowing. How far can we get with this? I would love to do $5 million rounds sometime in the next 2 years. And I think that would be an amazing thing if a generation of software engineers didn't have to go get corporate jobs, didn't have to launch projects that had like a needless token in them, and could just work for the open internet on Gitcoin grants. That's the big vision behind what we're doing. And I think that if we can get up to a $5 million round every quarter, then I think that we're really gonna start seeing that vision achieved. So bigger and better matching rounds in 2021 is what we're planning on.
That's so exciting. It's like nuts to just watch how much it's grown and like how people look forward to it. And I do love, we live in a society where obviously like people love to brag on social media. And now that we're in a pandemic, people especially spend too much time on it. But this is an example to me of like where it actually works. Like, it's kind of a trend in the community to post about all the different projects you donate to, and it's such a wonderful trend because it's like we're all sort of I mean, like I think it's for good intentions, but we're all like talking to one another and openly sharing the projects that we're proud to support. And like honestly, like people will comment on like whatever I donated to and be like, oh, can you support us? I gotta say the secret is I donate to every single one of them. There's not one that I won't donate to, because one DAI could get someone another 30 or 40 DAI, which is huge. So anyway.
Yeah, and I think that that's what we're kind of trying to do is my sort of like vision for this is that we're building a mesh network of jobs. So as opposed to just working for one centralized corporation in the future, you can work for the entire ecosystem. And so I put out a series of tweets. I'm going to share my screen real quick again here and just kind of show you visually what that looks like. So I have a little graph network tool that I've been building into the Gitcoin admin. And you can sort of see here the growth of public goods funding on Gitcoin grants. Round one in 2019, we had 200 contributions worth 40K. And this is what that contribution graph looks like. Each node in this network is a person, and an edge is a transaction between them. And so if you roll forward to round two in 2029, you can see that we've raised 400 contributions worth 60K. In round three in Q3 2019, we did 2,000 contributions. Round four in 2020, 5,000 contributions. Round five at the beginning of this year, it's starting to be an even denser mesh network of jobs. And so what we're starting to see is the ecosystem is funding all these projects on Gitcoin grants. And the cool thing is that not only are you sort of like sending them $1 at a time, but you're also signaling to major whales in the space which projects are worth funding. And so we're creating this sort of like preference map of who supports whom within the Ethereum community. And my vision is that people can just work for this mesh network of jobs in the future and don't have to go get a 9-to-5 and can just work for the open internet. So I think that's like the sort of like grand scheme what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, Kevin, remind me, what were people doing before Gitcoin grants? Like, what was the standard? Like, go get the corporate job you mentioned, or were there any other, like, I guess, avenues that you guys drew inspiration from for Gitcoin grants?
Unfortunately, someone called me and it took over my Bluetooth right when you were in the middle of asking that question. What was the question again?
I was just saying, no worries. I was just saying, was there any other avenue for raising money for open source software before Gitcoin grants? Like, I guess anything else you guys drew inspiration from before you started all of this?
Yeah, for sure. Well, open source software is what's called a public goods problem in economics, which just basically means a good that's non-excludable, non-rivalrous, something that you can consume and it doesn't impede my ability to consume that also. So like clean air is a great example of a public good. Like I can breathe clean air and it doesn't impede your ability to breathe clean air, and I get it for free, quote unquote. As opposed to a consumer good, like you buy like a Discman on Amazon. I don't know why I chose Discman as an example. That's like a very 1990s example of a consumer good. So basically, like there's just like a long history of public goods, like open source software, not having a business model, and sort of like the whole theory is that we can change that with blockchain. If we have the internet of money, we can change the way business models are created, not only for consumer products, but for public goods. And so that's one of the things that we're kind of like revisiting Eleanor Ostrom's 8 principles for maintaining the commons, and revisiting some work by Glenn Weil and Radical Markets about what could new economic models look like. And so we're standing on the shoulders of giants, all of these economists that have kind of theorized about how we might fund these things if we had something like Ethereum for the last 30 years, and now we have Ethereum, so someone who looks like me, a builder, can actually build it.
Yeah, it's a standard I've gotten used to just in the past year, that like Gitcoin grants works really well, and every round it grows larger, and it's just another example of, I think, like a really special time that we're living through. Like there's been a lot of challenges over the year in open source software, and the fact that like we're seeing this sort of groundswell of support. Thankfully, also due in part to like the success of the Ethereum community. It's really cool. If someone is interested in learning how to run a Gitcoin grant or maybe how to optimize it, are there any resources you would recommend?
So the Gitcoin blog, actually, we just published a post this round called "How to Maximize Your Matching Amount with Gitcoin Grants," and that's basically the 0 to 60 on you're going to run a grant and what do you want to do in order to get contributions in. The TLDR is, optimize for as many $1 contributions as you can get. That's the TLDR of the post. But maybe you could link that in the show notes. The more people who are raising on Gitcoin grants, the amazing thing is that every time you tweet about Gitcoin grants, because we've got this cart infrastructure, someone will add your grant to the cart, definitely to support you, but you're also supporting the rest of the Ethereum community because you can add a bunch more grants to cart when you add DeFi Dad's grant to your cart.
Exactly. I think my goal has always been just to, my goal is to, I don't want to tweet about like my own grant. I kind of find it like off-putting. But then if someone were asking me about it, I'm like, well, you should, or you should find somewhere to place it. So like one thing that I would recommend to anyone who's running a Gitcoin grant is put it into your Twitter handle that like your Gitcoin grant is live or something about it, like please consider my Gitcoin grant. And you've got several days here to still benefit from that. It's the 14th. This ends at what time on December 17th?
December 17th, I think it's at noon Eastern time. I'll have to double check that. But keep an eye on our Twitter account. In the past, I've scheduled tweets telling people about a countdown, letting them know how much longer they have to contribute in the rounds. But man, it's been a wild 2 weeks, and there's only 3 days left. So the 17th at noon Eastern time.
I want to end with just a reminder of a few of the projects that started out on Gitcoin grants, or at least like drew a lot of support from Gitcoin grants, because has it been a year and a half or 2 years since you started it?
January 2019 was when we started Gitcoin grants. And, that was the heart of the bear market when ETH was at $80. And so I think there were projects that were sort of being lean and mean and surviving off of Gitcoin grants back then. Obviously, it's a much better time in the DeFi space than it was back then. But I Earn Finance is a Gitcoin alumni. 1inch Exchange is a Gitcoin alumni. A lot of ETH2 clients like Nimbus and Prismatic Labs are they're partially funded by Gitcoin grants. I wouldn't represent us as all of their income, but we've kind of supplemented a lot of projects through the bear market.
That's exactly. There are, it feels like every project that didn't have, let's say, VC funding definitely drew some support from Gitcoin grants. So, it matters. Like, I think the success of ETH2, like I was most proud of the fact that I donated to all those ETH2 client teams, and I was, it's not like everyone owes me any sort of like thank you, but I'm like, this is awesome. Like, putting forth like just a few DAI really does help to make that difference, and to see them succeed, it's exhilarating to watch it all. So, well, Kevin, thanks for joining me. I guess anything else that you think folks should know about Gitcoin grants, or any other resources you would point them to?
Oh man. So I mean, I think the message that I want to leave people with is that we talk a lot in the DeFi space about degen finance, which is like, what's the latest vegetable coin that we're going to go all like yield farm on? And I think that's like super interesting to optimize for one's own game. But the thought I want to plant in your listeners' heads is this is a massively multiplayer online cooperative game. It's not just a single player optimize your own bags game. It's how do we as a community rally around creating a better financial system together. And so, I would encourage people to think about not just degen finance, but regen finance. How do we build multiplayer games that are positive sum for everyone involved? And that's what Gitcoin's trying to do with Gitcoin grants. I think that we're going to see a lot more of that kind of stuff in the ecosystem as this market cycle plays out. And so, think bigger than just optimizing your own bags is the message I would leave with people. Although that is important too. You got to be able to pay your mortgage and fund your team. But how do we create a better ecosystem for everyone? Is how do we create games around that? Is the design prompt I would love to give to your listeners.
That's it. I just put up ETH whales donate to Gitcoin. No, there's been some really generous people in the community, but it feels so good to pay that forward. And I would argue that many, if not a majority of the projects you find on there, they're all helping to ensure that we succeed in the long-term mission of Ethereum. So why wouldn't you donate? Like, just donate one DAI. I sure as shit would be donating if my wallet had grown in value over the last year, which I would argue most people's wallets should have grown in value if you've participated in anything.
Yeah.
So, pay it forward. Like come on.
What's one interesting, I know you're trying to like wrap the interview and I have a couple more minutes, but what's one interesting thing?
As long as you can keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one sort of interesting thing is like, so it's against the rules to do a quid pro quo where basically you say like, donate to my grant and I will give you Y tokens as a kickback. Like that's against the rules. Please do not do that. Yeah, and I want to be very clear. No quid pro quos are allowed on Gitcoin grants. But one of the kind of interesting things that we're starting to see is this kind of pay it forward mindset actually yielding a return for people who have a pay it forward mindset. And there's this $200 million token project called BadgerDAO, which recently launched. And basically what they did was they just went in and they airdropped a bunch of tokens to people who contributed to Gitcoin grants after the fact. No quid pro quo, but just as a way of as of saying like, hey, thanks for supporting public goods. And also, selfishly for them, they want a better distribution of quality people in the Ethereum community to their project. And so what's interesting is that anyone who had a pay it forward mindset and was contributing to Gitcoin grants got hundreds to thousands of dollars worth of Badger tokens in that airdrop. And there was no quid pro quo associated with that. It was just kind of like a thank you that Badger was doing as part of they're using Gitcoin grants as kind of like a token curated registry of who they were going to do an airdrop to. And so what I want to do is build, like I said, a financial system where we have a rational economic incentive to support each other. And it's interesting to see that vision come to light as Gitcoin grants is on its 8th round now. Yeah,
I definitely have noticed that those that are donating more, those that are like outwardly supporting Gitcoin grants, I feel like it comes back around. Like, and I don't necessarily mean that it comes back around in terms of donations. Like, I have always recognized just anyone donating, and it makes me more open to wanting to support them, to wanting to help one another. So it's been a really, for me, the experiment of just seeing people want to give and like, again, whether it's because you're trying to draw attention to your project, it's a great way to draw attention to your product by continually donating to others and being supportive of one another. Some really cool psychology kicking in there. It kind of plays to me off of like the focus on me with social media, but in this case, it's me donating to all these cool projects.
Yeah, for sure. I'm from Boulder, Colorado, and I'd like to think that we're like exporting the Colorado good vibes out to everyone in the internet of finance. And I say that mostly in jest, but I do think that it is like, I don't want to live in an episode of Black Mirror 20 years in the future once the internet of finance has taken over the world. I want to live in a world where my financial life is more like a web scale co-op. Where people are supportive of each other, and it's a positive sum game, not just a zero sum game. And so, trying to live in that future and create it is one of the things that we're trying to do. And we don't always get it right. But I think that we're doing our best. And the fact that you're out there helping us promote it and helping us create that engagement, I think has been really positive. So thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for participating.
Oh man, no problem. So I'm a product of Gitcoin grants. I've gotten support this year, which has been way beyond anything I ever imagined, like way beyond. Like, I was happy when I got 500 DAI. Like, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. But for what matching you can potentially get. Also, Zapper as well. Like we as a team, individually, we've been contributing and talk about how important that is. And it's because Zapper was supported, DeFi Zap and Zapper, which is what we are now, were supported by Gitcoin grants. So yeah, anyways, we just want to pay it forward. So Kevin, thanks so much, man. We'd love to have you back. I just, wanted to bring you on to highlight this again. And I'm going to go restart my computer. I've found that is the most brilliant way to fix any problem with my computer. Finish my donations for the day, and reminder everyone, toss it into your Twitter handle. Again, it's a really great way to remind others if you are on Gitcoin. There's been so many peers and awesome projects that I forgot weren't on there. And also, don't be afraid to tweet at me if you think I missed you. Like I'm trying to donate to as many projects as possible. So, anyways,
thanks so much for having me on. It's been great to chat.
No problem, man. And hey, everyone, tomorrow we'll be back to interview. We'll be interviewing Samyak from Instadap, and we might be also interviewing Nate from Bancor. So just anyways, join us tomorrow. Follow us on Twitter at yield_TV, and then you can subscribe at tv.zapper. So, all right. See you, Kevin. Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, where'd it go? Bye.